Hello, good afternoon from Mildenhall, where we join an estimated 250,000 people who've come here over 2 days to see some of the greatest names in aviation, including the Red Arrows and the Thunderbirds, the United States Air Force display team, appearing in this country for the first time in 13 years. Now, Mildenhall itself has a fascinating history, and it's celebrating 2 anniversaries. It's 50 years since it became an RAF base, and also 50 years since that famous Mac Robertson air race set off from here for Melbourne, Australia. Today, Mildenhall is run by the US Air Force, and it's the home of Blackbird, the world's most advanced reconnaissance aircraft, and we'll be seeing that later in the programme. Well, my fellow presenters this afternoon are Fern Britton and Captain John Hutchinson, and really no presenter can have made the entrance John is about to make, because he's a Concorde pilot, and he's actually at the controls now of that British Airways Concorde you see coming in behind me. So let me hand you to him, and he can take us through the landing.
Thank you very much indeed, David. John, just confirm we are cleared to land.
You're joining me on the flight deck of an aircraft I'm very privileged to fly. It really is a thoroughbred, beautiful to look at, a delight to handle, capable of travelling faster than a rifle bullet. It's a supreme piece of technology and a great commercial success for British Airways. We've just flown at twice the speed of sound up the English Channel to get here for the Mildenhall Air Fete today with 100 passengers, some of whom are flying for the very first time.
4 tons to go to max landing weight. I'm going to give you a VREF update now. VREF 164.
Okay, 164.
Okay. Yeah, check again.
Okay, 4 greens.
Roger, nose is going down. Got it. Brakes to check.
Okay, carry on the brakes, John.
Okay.
Brakes checked, normal selected.
Okay. At the moment we're doing about 200 miles an hour, and very shortly I'll be reducing to my final approach speed. In fact, I'm going to start doing that right now. 164 was the VREF, was it?
Check, 164.
We've got the undercarriage down, of course, and no flaps on Concorde. We've lowered the nose to the landing position, and we're now established on the final approach, coming in for an ILS for our landing here. I'm going to do a manual landing in point of fact.
500 radio. 200. 100.
100.
We're just coming
50,
into the flare now.
40, 30, 20, 50.
Throttling back, holding off, holding off. There we are, on the ground.
Full reverse, please.
Reverse coming in, lowering the nose wheel. Full reverse coming on.
Full reverse on all 4 engines.
Decelerating.
Down to 100.
100. 75.
Not as fast as Concorde, but certainly as beautiful in its own right, is the Concorde balloon, flown today by Neil Duncan, who's used to going very fast indeed. He's first officer on 757s. The balloon is also here because we're celebrating the bicentenary of the first British manned balloon flight. Now, I discovered today that, of course, Concorde is associated with champagne, but for anyone's maiden voyage on a balloon, they get given a glass of champagne. Now, David is having his maiden voyage. He loves aircraft and he hates flying, so I think you'll need that.
Fill that up, Fern, fill that up.
All right, here we go.
When they asked me to do this show, they said nothing about my feet leaving the ground, you know. And I must say, I've never been so frightened in all my life, but I've got great confidence in Neil here. So let's go, shall we?
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Onward.
You're getting smaller. Well, Neil Duncan, here we are under this incredible burner, which we're going to hear from time to time, which is going to block us out.
Yes.
How powerful is it?
Well, it's equivalent to 200 gas ovens going all at once, and we're told it's rated at 2 million BTUs, up to 7 million BTUs, depending on the day, so it's pretty powerful.
Now tell me, how did the pilots like yourself get involved in flying balloons then?
Well, I'm involved with aviation, with commercial aviation, but this is such a change. There's no paraphernalia, and the actual flying is absolutely delightful.
Well, the view across the airfield at Mildenhall is absolutely magnificent, and miles into the distance, the Suffolk countryside. Fantastic view, and let's enjoy the flight, Neil.
Yes, indeed. Super.
I'm sure David will get back to Earth safely.
We're now going to the other end of the spectrum with the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle air superiority fighter in a very tight turn there over Mildenhall. The aircraft today is being flown by Captain Mike Bebo from the United States Air Force 522nd Tactical Fighter Squadron, based at Bitburg in Germany. The aircraft's powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines, producing a total of 48,000 pounds of static thrust with reheat. There's that reheat lighting up now. You can see the fire in the back end of the engine. Aircraft pulling up vertically now with more power than the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft. Coming out of that loop into a half roll, a good view there of the intakes, variable geometry intakes, which are rather reminiscent of Concorde, in fact. The aircraft's capable of flying at Mach 2.5 up to 100,000 feet, and it's stressed to take 7.5 G.
The Naval Helicopter Display Team, the Sharks. Leader Lieutenant Commander David George has let me fly in his lead Gazelle. David, what are we going to do?
We're going to do what we call the colonial break, which is quite a severe manoeuvre, so hang on to your seat. Stand by, Colonial. Leader, braking, braking. Go. 2, go. 3, go. 4, go. Now we're just recovering ourselves now from that little upside down bit, and the team will reform on the in an echelon starboard. Shark, stand by for the simultaneous brake. Stand by, leader, braking, braking, go. Now this is a fairly steep turn, as you can feel. It's really pushing us down in the seats a little bit here. Now we're rolling out parallel with the crowd again, so we're actually going up the crowd line. Now this is the way we came in. Shark, stand by, split brake, leader, braking, braking, go.
Oh!
Sorry about that, I should have told you that's quite a steep right-hand turn. And we're now going round to the right. Shark straightening. Turning in. Now coming towards us are the other 2 aircraft. Okay, well there's the pass, which looks quite impressive from the crowd. As you can see, there's quite a long way between us. Shark Swan, go. Just running in there, building up the speed to 120 knots so that when Jerry pulls out, he'll have a lot of momentum to actually get up to about 500 feet for his first manoeuvre. Okay, there's Jerry gone. Now we're going to depart the crowd line and actually pick him up a little bit later.
The soloist is Lieutenant Jerry Woodham, who's 26. All the Sharks pilots are instructors, and that's why they fly so brilliantly. They're on 705 Squadron, based at the Royal Naval Air Station in Culdrose in Cornwall.
Well, as you can see, Jerry's at the top of his solo part now. He's at about 400 or 500 feet. As you can see, we're at 150. Now, you asked me about the rejoin. Well, he's now going to actually dive into the formation from that position. As you can see, we're underneath him now, and now we hope that he joins the formation.
And the other 2 pilots are Lieutenant Alan Mucknell and Lieutenant Aaron Cambridge. David, thank you very much for a most unforgettable ride.
My pleasure.
And this is mine, because taking the stage now, a real sight to see. Some of the RAF training aircraft of 50 years ago, starting with the Avro Tutor, and this is the last one in the world. Like 2 other trainers we're going to see, it's been restored by the Shuttleworth collection at the Old Warden Airfield in Bedfordshire. This one is particularly interesting because it's thought to be the last Tutor flying with the RAF. That was as late as December 1946. And it's also one of the aircraft used in the filming of Reach for the Sky, the life story of Douglas Bader. But it didn't have much of a film, apparently, because it broke a crankshaft. Still, it's in excellent condition today as it comes into land. And not on the tarmac, you'll note, but on the more familiar surface of its heyday, the grass. Here's a famous name indeed, the de Havilland tiger moth, developed from the gypsy moth and very well known to airmen of the Second World War because most of them were trained in these. Worldwide, a staggering 8,811 tiger moths were produced. It was the last biplane trainer used by the RAF, introduced in 1932, and it was 1955, remarkably, 23 years later, before the final one was withdrawn from service. In fact, such is the fame of this aircraft that when a biplane takes to the sky, you hear many people instinctively say, "There goes a tiger moth." Well, if they're saying it today, they're absolutely right for once, because that is the legendary tiger moth. And so to the Miles Magister, better known to countless RAF pilots as the Maggie. Again, very rare, one of only 2 airworthy Magisters in the world. It was the first monoplane trainer in service with the RAF, and it was part of the training programme for the new monoplane fighters and bombers, produced in ever larger numbers in the late 30s as war began to beckon. An interesting point is that the Magister was an all-wooden structure, and this at a time when most aircraft were being built in all, or at least part, of metal. The colour yellow was the RAF training livery of its day, but since then it's been updated to red and white, and John is with one of the modern trainers.
I'm standing beside the Jet Provost, the RAF's basic trainer for so many years. In fact, I was instructing on them myself just 20 years ago. Now the battle's on for a successor, and surprisingly, it looks as though the new aircraft could be a turboprop, and for the first time in the history of the Royal Air Force, it could be of foreign design. Now an aircraft whose pedigree is impeccably British, the British Aerospace Hawk Advanced Flying and Weapons Trainer. This aircraft has been in service since 1976, and the first Hawks were delivered to number 4 Flying Training School at RAF Valley in Anglesey, which is the home base for the display pilot today, Flight Lieutenant Charlie McElroy from Belfast. He's the winner of the 1984 Wright Jubilee Trophy, the RAF's annual aerobatic competition. He's demonstrating here a very tight turn. You can see the white contrails streaming off the wingtips, a sure sign that the airplane is being flown to its limits. Pulling G is not just a gimmick, it is very much an operational requirement in a modern Air Force with its high-performance aircraft, and Charlie McElroy is simply demonstrating this skill to the ultimate level. If you put 9 Hawks together, you get one of the best formation aerobatic teams in the world. Their team manager, squadron leader, Eric Steenson.
Straight into diamond from the arrival loop, the 1984 Red Arrows, led this year for his 3rd and final season by squadron leader John Blackwell. He's joined by 4 new pilots in the team this year, the newest of which is on his left in the number 3 position, Flight Lieutenant Gordon Hannum. On the opposite side, in the number 2 position, Flight Lieutenant Simon Bedford moves his section back in unison along the outside of that center stem as the shape changes to represent the American orbital craft, the Shuttle. The pilots in the team have a wide variety of experience, ranging from operational flying on the Jaguar and Harrier through to the Phantom and Buccaneer. Indeed, they're all current in air-to-air combat skills, and they have a reserve commitment to join the air defense system of the United Kingdom. And appropriately here, flying the pattern of a Swedish defense fighter, the Viggen. Now, some of the formation changes are designed to be hidden from view. And emerging from behind the smoke trails, the second of the American spacecraft in the display, the Apollo. reintroduced to the 1984 programme, appropriately with it appearing here at Mildenhall, the Concorde. Back into diamond again in time for the 5-4 split. John Blackwell leading the 5 to the left in a manoeuvre which many may have seen with the 2 solo aircraft before, but not with all 9, as Red 6 Flight Lieutenant Phil Tolman leads the 4 back for the 5-4 cross. It all looks very steady from the distance, but a camera mounted on the back of the leader's aircraft will show that there's still a certain amount of movement as the pilots adjust the controls to stay in position. And there Phil Tolman leads his 4 back into the diamond formation. Another new pattern this year and unique, with 5 aircraft rolling in line abreast, is the Delta formation. And as Red 6 and 7 pull up to separate for their synchronized maneuvers, the others are in leader's benefit and sweeping back into Big 7 for the Cascade. Ross Boynes and Phil Tolman coming towards each other at a speed in excess of 700 miles per hour for opposition rolls. Coming back to cross once more. Pulling 6G as they go around that turn. And rejoining with the main formation. All 9 aircraft come back together to reform into the diamond pattern in time for the finale of the display. As John Blackwell brings them across the top of that loop into the parasol break.
up, it is complete and clear to the south.
I think you'll see a good show from the team today.
The Thunderbirds, the United States Air Force's top formation aerobatic team, positively leaping into the air with their F-16 Fighting Falcons. This formation team is led by Lieutenant Colonel Larry Stellman, age 37, and the Thunderbird squadron is based at Nellis Air Force Base near Las Vegas in Nevada. This highlights the precise handling qualities of this aircraft, with 2 aircraft, 1 inverted, flying in formation past us. Now the 2 singletons using the runway line to pass within an aircraft's width of each other. Heading into their opposition 4-point row.
John, you've done formation flying. How do they keep the formation so tight?
Basically by a lot of concentration and a lot of practice. The whole world consists of the airplane you are formating on, and the formation leader is carrying the whole responsibility for all those aircraft in his formation. The Fighting Falcon demonstrating its extreme maneuverability now with its electrically signaled flying controls. Interesting to note, the pilot sits in a 30-degree rate seat, which enables him to pull very high G loadings of up to 9 G. Capable, as we can see now, of slow speed in formation as the Darman 4 flies past with the undercarriage down. The 2 singletons now rejoin the main Darman 4 formation as the United States Air Force Thunderbirds 1984 formation aerobatic team position for their final maneuver to end this display of theirs with the high show bomb burst. We're being treated to a rare and special occasion now, as we see the crew of the SR-71, the Blackbird, being suited up for their display. They're wearing spacesuits, exactly the same, in fact, as the spacesuits that were worn on the first 5 shuttle flights. Very necessary in this aircraft because of the extreme heights it flies to, heights in excess of 100,000 feet. And now the huge crowd at Mildenhall are getting their first view ever of the crew of a Blackbird aircraft ready for flight.
What an awesome sight that is. The highlight of our show today, the Blackbird, and the immense power and acceleration sending that fuel cascading out of the back on takeoff. A real touch of the science fiction about this, with its shape, its colour, and not least its capabilities. A very special aircraft.
That really is awesome. Look at that reheat with the shock waves in it.